Taylor Sheridan's first Yellowstone prequel series is being followed by a second one titled 1923. The show will premiere on Paramount Plus later this year. Although no trailers or posters have been released, Paramount-owned MTV Entertainment Studios has disclosed who will feature in the show, when it will premiere, and what the show will focus on in its first season. So far, everything about 1923 has been disclosed, including the release date, cast, where to stream or watch online, and other facts you're sure to be interested in. So what are you waiting for? Do yourself a favor by staying until the end of the video to get the latest news on the release date, cast, and where to stream Yellowstone 1923 online. Without wasting much time, let's get right into it. 1883's Real History Explained. In 1803, the American government acquired almost the entire landmass of the modern central United States from Napoleonic France through a treaty known as the Louisiana Purchase. However, as France controlled just small areas of the landmass in question, what the U.S. government bought was the right to obtain large swaths of Native American land through any means without interference from the French or other colonial powers. This led to a lawless era pervaded by frequent skirmishes between the Native Americans and the American families, war veterans, homesteaders, criminals, and many others who sought their fortune in new lands. At the time, diseases like smallpox and cholera were practically death sentences, as modern science didn't yet offer any viable treatments for those unfortunate enough to contract these conditions. By the 1880s, the American westward expansion was at its peak. To the north of the landmass that America claimed through the Louisiana Purchase lies Montana, seen by many as a promised land, in which they could settle away from the violence and turmoil that pervaded the rest of the country. This includes those who were part of the German emigration to America, which began in the late 1600s. As German immigrants escaping war and prosecution in Europe saw greater promise in the American frontier, despite the dangers involved, the German emigration continued until the late 1800s. 1883 uses this historically accurate setting to flesh out those very roots of Yellowstone's Dutton Ranch. Why 1923 can beat Yellowstone and 1883? The real reason why the 1923 cast is so stacked with talent is that the timeline and setting provide the foundations for a much more complex, compelling, and substantially darker story than both Yellowstone and 1883. Indeed, 1923 combines the best of these two previous shows. During this decade, the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch is already established. But instead of Paradise Valley's gorgeous suburban landscape, most of Montana is still at the mercy of the elements and frontier justice. While Yellowstone may not end in Season 5 and 1883 Season 2's Bass Reeves story will see the Sheridan-verse debut of the greatest frontier lawman in history, 1923 combines what made these previous shows so successful to flesh out the untold story of the Duttons. 1923 is an improvement of the formula of Yellowstone, set in an ever harsher backdrop than 1883 and with more stars. The prequel will also reveal how the Duttons transformed from the pioneering settlers of 1883 into the scheming politicians of Yellowstone. In terms of the prequel's future, even if the first season spans a decade, 1923 will still have about 90 years worth of Dutton history to explore over any succeeding seasons. 1923. What you need to know. It was revealed in May that the program will be released on Paramount Plus in December, and today, the show has officially set a release date. On December 18, 2022, the first episode of 1923 will be available on the streaming service. Deadline reports that the show will be split into 2 seasons with 8 episodes in each season. The decision to set the next Yellowstone prequel in 1923 instead of 1932 makes the next installment of the increasingly successful TV show even more exciting. The Dutton family has owned Yellowstone Dutton Ranch for 7 generations, meaning the show's creator Taylor Sheridan has the pick of various eras of family history to explore. While picking up in 1932 during the Great Depression, as originally intended, would give the family plenty to contend with, having them face bootleggers during Prohibition and experience the roaring 20s in Montana sounds way better. Paramount Plus recently announced the casting of Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren for what was originally 1932, with the heavyweight actors delving into the rich past of the Dutton family and their hold on the largest cattle ranch in the United States. If the series had remained 1932 and not 1923, the family would have been 3 years into the Great Depression, a major economic crash that saw unemployment skyrocket. The situation was exacerbated in Montana by severe drought and the collapse of many industries, including cattle ranching. However, the show will explore the era of Prohibition and post-war excess instead. The Great Depression has proven to be a great narrative vein to tap into, similar to how the 19th century frontier was a great backdrop for the Duttons in 1883. Shows like Perry Mason and Mildred Pierce have found great success, and films like Miller's Crossing and Cinderella Man prove that the era has an audience. The period has frequently been represented in either New York or other major U.S. cities like Chicago and Los Angeles. The Prohibition era is often explored through its impact on major cities as well. Having the showrunners explore the Dutton family history during a time in Western America's history not often seen on TV, instead of going for the original plan of 1932, makes the next installment in the series sound much more interesting. 1923 already has a major advantage over other Yellowstone shows. The cast of Yellowstone spin-off 1923 is ballooning into a bigger collection of stars compared to any other show in Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western universe. And this strong ensemble may just allow 1923 to replace Yellowstone as Sheridan's new flagship series. Combined with what's been revealed about the prequel story and factions, the 1923 cast already makes the spin-off sound better and more exciting than Yellowstone. Based on the timeline, viewers will take a deep dive into the darkest chapter in the Dutton family history in 1923. With Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren starring as the Dutton Ranch patriarch and matriarch, Jacob and Kara Dutton, 1923 could become the biggest anti-hero crime drama of this decade, especially as these film legends will be joined by several television veterans in the lead cast. Local lawman and friend of the Duttons, Sheriff William McDowell, will be played by Robert Patrick, Terminator 2, and Peacemaker, while Jerome Flynn, Game of Thrones' Ripper Street, will be the hard-headed, brogue-wearing Scotsman, Banner Creighton, the leader of the local sheepmen. The other Duttons in the cast is Jacob's nephew, John Sr., the little boy in 1883, his wife Emma, their son Jack, and John Sr.'s brother Spencer, who are respectively played by James Badge Dale, Marley Shelton, Darren Mann, and Brandon Skellner. Notably, Darren Mann's Jack Dutton is the first member of the previously missing third generation of Yellowstone's Duttons to appear on the screen. 1923, the cast. The 1923 cast also includes Brian Garrity as Dutton Ranch foreman Zane Davis and Jennifer L. as Sister Mary O'Connor, who teaches at the School for American Indians in Montana, and Julia Schlepfer as Alexandra, a woman who meets Dutton abroad. Moreover, Amina Nieves will play government residential boarding school resident Tiona Rainwater, whose name suggests that 1923 will reveal more about the Duttons' relationship with the Confederated Tribes of Broken Rock. The 1923 cast seems ready to take over the Sheridan-verse, which is a good sign for Sheridan's growing roster of contemporary neo-westerns. As the main story of this shared neo-western universe could see its conclusion in Yellowstone Season 5, the prequel spin-off 1923 is the perfect opportunity to continue telling the story of the Duttons, no matter how Yellowstone ends. Just like Yellowstone, 1923 has the potential to spawn several seasons, with each new season tackling a different decade in the greatest ranch in Montana.